Good evening, everyone. Call the regular town council meeting for Thursday, April 11th to order. As you can see, this meeting is being held in person. It can also be viewed on local cable channel 1303 or on the internet by accessing bucksportmaine.gov and selecting agendas and minutes and choosing this meeting and clicking on the video button next to the meeting. Questions or comments may be submitted prior to or during the meeting by emailing slassard@bucksportmaine.gov or during the meeting by calling 469-7368, and that would be a great time to make sure your electronic devices are turned off. Why don't we do that ourselves? All right, next is roll call. Georgia.
Councilor Mark Eastman.
Here.
Councilor Paul Govan.
Here.
Mayor Paul Bissonnette.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Steve Bishop.
Here.
Councilor Ed Rankin.
Here.
Thank you. Next is presentation of any town council recognitions. Do not have any this evening. Next is to consider minutes of previous meetings. We have the minutes from our March 28th, 2024 meeting. I will assume everyone's had a chance to review those. It's the pleasure of the council.
Motion approved. Second.
Motion is seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Next is receive and review correspondence. We have one, the Verona police call from March the 22nd, 2024. Any questions? Making a slight adjustment to the agenda this evening. As you'll see, 7C is an update from the, under discussion items, is an update from the Regulatory Review Committee. We'll do that first, and then we'll do the first readings of all of the things that committee discussed.
Today we discussed short-term rental ordinance proposal, essentially putting in guidelines for short-term rentals, short-term rental, anything under 30 days, where they would have to be inspected and follow an ordinance instead of a free-for-all, essentially. We talked about the fees for that. Something that we didn't have before, and we wanted to move it forward.
And, yep, and the amendment to Appendix K. Perfect. So
Appendix
we will
K,
have
sorry.
a second reading of that at our next regular meeting, as well as the public hearing, correct? Yep.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, back up to 6. Ordinances to consider or introduce. We have the first reading this evening of the short-term rental ordinance, as well as the fees ordinance update and the amendment to Appendix K, which is the definitions to coincide with the short-term rental ordinance. Any questions there? Back to discussion items. The first item under discussion items is we have the 45 Pond Street foreclosure and the bids on those.
Yes, we opened the bids yesterday for the Pond Street property and received, I believe, if I can find my agenda, 12 bids for that property, the highest of which was Cheryl Beth Storms for $126,200. There's a resolve later in the agenda for consider, but there was significant interest in this property.
Questions? Next, we have the Buck Memorial Library, a story walk request.
Good evening. I can't believe this is the 7th year I've stood here for this same thing, but it is. We've had 6 successful years, and I'm hoping that we can just get your blessing to do the same thing we've done for the last 6 years. We've presented 24 books for locals and visitors alike along the waterfront. I think most of you have seen it, or read it, or tried to hop along with it, so just would like to have your permission to do it again.
Do you need anything? Can we decide that tonight?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
That's how
Motion
you
to
always
approve the story walk for 2024 summer.
Second. Motion is second. Questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Look at that.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you. All right, now to agenda items, of which there are two. The first is Resolve 2024-43 to approve the memorandum of understanding with the Bucksport Bay Healthy Community Coalition.
Yes, we have representatives from the coalition here this evening. This is an MOU that the town and this organization have had for a number of years. This organization does a lot of work for the community that the town supports, the AARP, H&M Friendly, the Thriving in Place program. They're the conduit for our Habitat for Humanity program. I knew I could remember it. And are also the conduit for the Transportation for Seniors program, which is being reinstated through Down East Community Partners. So they're here to talk to us for a bit.
Okay, Vanessa's going to do most of the speaking. That'll be good for the rest of you. You won't have to listen to me. But I just wanted to say hello to the council and let you know that I'm Jeanette Tardif and that I am president of the board of Bucksport Bay Healthy Communities this year. Loving it, excited about it, and especially excited about working with the town. The history we have working with you folks is amazing, and I'm kind of excited that I'm in a position where I can see it up close and personal a little bit more. So I want to thank you in advance for all that you do for us, and Vanessa will speak eloquently about what you probably really want to hear, but just wanted you to know so that if you have anyone you want to get in touch with besides Vanessa, I would be that person, and looking at somebody's faces, I'd be excited about saying hi to you. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
she set me up to be eloquent. So
No pressure.
yes.
Don't screw it up.
So there aren't many changes to this memorandum of understanding. We're asking for it to be 2 years versus 1 year. We've changed a little bit of the language to make sure that it's timely and inconsistent with the programs that we're doing currently. We added the home repair, safety, and accessibility program in there. We've added some language about the Thrive program, the community garden, but essentially it's the same memorandum of understanding. We just like to lengthen it to the 2 years and make sure that it's up to date. So if you have any questions about what's in there or anything we can answer at all, be happy to.
Motion
Go ahead.
to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any questions?
No, I do not.
Very good. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then the second item under agenda items is Resolve 2024-44 to approve the sale of 45 Pond Street to the highest bidder. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions? All's in favor? Opposed?
Just where's the money? Let me speak for a second.
Roll it.
Yeah.
How much of this are we owed, so we have to forfeit the rest to the owner, correct?
There isn't an owner that is locatable. The owner for this property has not, the property's been vacant for more than 10 years. We contacted USDA, which is the mortgage holder on the property, and which has, for all those years, paid taxes right before foreclosure every year. And in December of '23, they didn't do that, which is what put it into foreclosure. And we contacted them first via certified mail, which they signed for but didn't respond, and then via email and phone through contacts to find out, number one, if they had any contact information for the owner that they could share with us so that we could, and they have none. And they have no interest in this property at all and have indicated that once the town transfers ownership, that they will do a release deed on that mortgage to the new owner, so that that liability is off the thing. But we don't have anywhere to, we don't have a new owner to send it to. There's legislation that's being considered that talks about if in those cases that happens, that those funds would go to the state unclaimed property fund, but at this point, there isn't any of that, so the town will be retaining the balance. I don't have anybody to give it to.
Oh, there's plenty to give.
No, well, no, I mean legally. I don't have anyone legally
Oh,
to,
that's perfect.
which is why we went the extra step with this one, to try and find the owner, and I don't have a way to do that.
I'm not gonna ask any more questions, because that was painful asking the first one.
You'll do better next time.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Let's see, next is resignations, appointments, assignments, and elections, which we have none. Approval of quick claims, discharges, and deeds, of which we have none. And that takes us to the town manager report.
The town of Penobscot is convening a meeting of communities on the Blue Hill Peninsula to discuss that region's frustration with the current limited waste disposal options available to communities. The meeting is tomorrow afternoon, and I am unable to attend due to a prior commitment, but the meeting is being held via Zoom, and I have asked that they provide a link to the recording of the meeting if they can make one, or minutes from it if they do not. The unfortunate reality is that with both the Perk facility and the potential Hamden facility not in operation, options are limited at this point to Juniper Ridge landfill at the moment. And I would add that I have also corresponded with the group via email to share some thoughts with them, and ask that I be kept in the loop for future meetings. I'm happy to report that the town received the remainder of the funding from the one-year property tax stabilization program that we had planned on receiving by December 31st. Public Safety Director Gagan, Deputy Chief Winchester, Code Enforcement Officer Cavelli, and I all received subpoenas for depositions on April 19th and 22nd from attorneys for the Spring Fountain related to the case in Hancock County. Since the court has already limited discovery in that case in a very specific way, and the subpoenas went well beyond that, our attorney has filed to have the court disallow them. I'll keep you posted on where all that goes. The fire department submitted a SAFER grant application today. The deadline is tomorrow, for 3 additional personnel that would be fully paid for a 3-year period. That would bring staffing to the recommended 4 per shift and reduce dependence on per diem coverage. If a grant is awarded, the council would then have to determine whether or not to accept it. And finally, a reminder that Patriots Day is Monday, and the town office and the transfer station will be closed.
Questions for the town manager?
Question on the SAFER grant, is that, any match? Or is
What's that?
Is there any match?
No, it's
3 years, 100%, we don't have to guarantee 3 year, okay, perfect, cool.
Don?
Susan, where's the meeting, that regional waste meeting gonna be held?
I will email you that. It's at I believe at the community,
There's a school. No,
at
there's
the school in Penobscot.
At 4 o'clock, I think.
At 4 o'clock
Grammar
tomorrow.
school or?
Yeah, there's only, yeah, right
Just
on,
the one.
it's on the North Penobscot Road,
Yep.
right before the town office, right,
Yeah.
right
And it's
beside
at
the
4
fire
o'clock,
department.
and they've invited municipal representatives from Blue Hill and Castine and Penobscot and Orland and
Is the public invited?
I didn't think so.
I
thought
didn't
it-
think so. I
think they
think
were,
this was just a municipal officials, but I'd be happy to check with them if you'd like me to.
Sure. It is, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next is set public hearings and or hold public hearings and approval of any licenses or permits. We have one for the Bridge the Gap race through the Down East Family YMCA.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Questions? All's in favor? Opposed? Next is discussion of items not on the agenda for council and public. Start with the public this evening. Yes,
Yep.
yep.
My name is Jake Meyer. I am a forester in Orland, and I wrote a forest management plan for the two properties, for the two Bucksport forest properties, about 2013, and it is mentioned in the comprehensive plan that it would be a good thing to execute that plan. In addition to the project of the two forests, I did last year the tree inventory here. And I worked with McKay, and we had the idea to propose to make Bucksport a Tree City USA. These two things are different projects, and there is actually a third project hanging also on that whole thing, and this is the Project Canopy, a Maine Forest Service program. And they have a lot of programs helping towns to prepare for climate change, to take care of street trees. And Bucksport is considered a disadvantaged town, and therefore normally to get these funding, a town has to contribute 50%. This is waived for Bucksport. There is no contribution from the town. So I would like to discuss all these three things together, possibly on a meeting, possibly tonight. I'm not really prepared because I've heard, I'm just trying to get it on the agenda. But for me, the real, very important thing is the Tree City requirement of a tree board, independent of Tree City or not, would be really great to also oversight the management of the forest. And the management of the forest is really for forest health, for possibly recreation, definitely wildlife, and that's where the input of the town would be fantastic. Therefore, some kind of a committee, and that could then be also the entry into the Tree City. And the big thing on the Tree City is education of the town on environmental problems and what's coming there. So my question is, can we put that on the agenda, or?
I mean, like, the harvesting of the forest, would that be an infrastructure
You have a conservation
committee?
committee that we could, they're not one of your standing committees, but we can see if we can get a conservation commission. That might be the most appropriate committee to start with.
Okay.
That we can contact the members and set up a meeting for that to report back to the council on a recommendation for whether or not the town should participate in this. Does that sound reasonable?
Yep.
Yep.
When should we aim for that to be back to the council? Yeah, I'm asking a question that might be hard to answer because
Well,
we need
I
to.
think that depending on the complexity of what's being discussed and funding structures, it may take the committee more than one meeting to come up with a recommendation. So the goal is by the end of April to have the committee have its first meeting, then we'd at least know by the first meeting in May sort of where it stood. Is that?
That is very important because May 15th is the deadline for applying for some of the Project Canopy funds, which do also come back, so there is no real rush, but a year is gained.
Well, with the canopy situation, does that come into play with the VPI?
It does.
We're doing the MDOT grant for Main Street, we're voting on it this year, and the VPI would, in essence, cover that.
That would, when the Project Canopy grant was received a year or two ago, and then Rich, what are the letters for the current one?
PPI.
That one, the PPI. The state had indicated when they participated in that grant with us that once you applied for that and they've done the study, that you don't change anything until you've gone through the study and into implementation, because accepting a Project Canopy grant to do something when you're looking for a VPI to do something much bigger wouldn't mesh very well. And so they had asked us to put the canopy, not to do anything until we decided what we were doing with this grant we already had, the study we had, and the proposal to move that forward.
The Project Canopy grant would also be, for example, for educational stuff. There is a $10,000 or $20,000 grant just to get out into the public and tell what needs to be told and possibly organize. What I have a little bit in mind is to create some kind of culture that people just have that in their mind, that there are important things, for example, invasive species. Another program of Project Canopy, which helps to make a plan for the invasive species in town, and then hopefully to eliminate that. I personally have a very big interest because I don't have children. So I love to work with children, and I did already work with Ridge School in the Bucksford Forest. That worked very, very nicely with bucksaws and clippers and taking care of brush and building nesting places and stuff like that. So there might be funding for that.
Well,
I think step one is the Conservation Commission meeting to get this all explained, and then go from there to do that within the next couple of weeks, so that we're in time if there was to be an application that there would still be time for that to happen. So I will contact the members of that group and see if we can organize a meeting for it. Okay?
Okay. Will then somebody call me?
Well, I have your number from today.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you. Anyone else?
Is this where I'm asking for the money for the Bay Festival?
Oh, I thought we were doing that next time, but you can now if you want.
No.
I've had a lot.
Motion to disapprove?
No.
No.
He's joking.
He's joking. Thank you. Last year, the council was so kind to give the town employees $28,000 to put on a Bay Festival. I'd like to let you know that this year we're planning on doing a bigger event, but asking for less. We're asking for $18,000. we have, already to this point, $6,775 in sponsorships and $2,440 in vendor applications for a total of $9,215.
That's a lot better than last year, isn't it?
So would you?
Still short from your 28.
Yeah, that's all right.
There was 10 from last year, correct? Just under 10 from last year, so technically almost up to 19, but don't want to cut ourselves short and then come back the following year and ask you for 28 again, so we're creating a flat line. We'll get there.
Rich, do you need action tonight for anything in terms
We
of?
wanted to bring it to your attention so that at the next meeting, we have money that holds us through now to
Okay.
get paid what we need to, but at least so that it's on your radar and you can have a full staff to talk about it.
Sounds wonderful.
What day again is it this year?
July 20th. And we're gonna have some alien Autobots in the parking lot this year.
Don't wreck the surprise. guys.
Okay.
It's all about the surprise.
So, the consensus
I have no idea.
of the council is that a resolve on the next meeting will get adopted for this purpose, is that?
Yes.
Yes.
It was that way.
Do we
I don't hear anyone
need a
saying,
resolve, or could we actually?
we
We need a
need a
resolve.
resolve.
It's money, so, yep.
It's dinero, yes. And then in 2 years, the United States of America will be celebrating its 250th birthday, so we'll be looking to tie those, and that's just to give you a heads up, because planning for a celebration that big will probably take about 2 years, so.
Perfect. Can't wait to hear about
So
it.
that's why it's 18.
Right.
Because next year's gonna start.
Anyone else from the?
Just
Chief?
real quick, in case any of the council has asked, the Bridge the Gap race, I should have brought this up when you voted. The route for that, or the route has been changed, due to some safety concerns on the waterfront. So if you get questions about from Hannaford underneath the bridge where there's a lot of damage and stuff, they will not be using it. Coming off the bridge, going left down through the Veterans Park and on across the little bridge. Just in case you're asked, they won't be going.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Council? Thank you. Upcoming public hearings, designation of topics for committee assignment and scheduling of committee meetings. So we have, obviously, we've already talked about the conservation committee. We will send notice out to them next week. I also know that we need an infrastructure committee meeting on before our next meeting, a regular meeting, excuse me, on April 25th at 6 p.m. And there will be a services committee meeting that evening as well at 6:45. Any other committee meetings that need to be discussed?
Baseball committee meeting, I need to have one of those.
Are you looking?
Baseball field
Yep.
committee meeting.
So you fielding a team?
Yeah.
Do you wanna do that at 5:30, Ed? And then before the next meeting, or do you wanna, will it be longer than that, or
Potentially, it could be longer than that.
about 5? Or is that, or do you wanna do it on the the meeting after that? And do it at 6?
Would that be
Cemetery at
fine, Rich?
4:30, just keep in mind.
Or do you need us to get jump on this before that?
The 25th works great for me.
What about the first meeting in May? Just
The
in
first
case?
meeting in May, that would be,
First, go to cemetery that,
Ninth.
so cemeteries, the 25th at 4:30 as well.
Yes.
yeah, the ninth works well.
Okay, so that's plenty of time for us to kind of figure out what's going on with the field.
Yes, I think that's, I think that's good.
So
And I
would
think
6 o'clock, would an hour be enough?
Yep.
Okay, so 6 o'clock on the 9th.
And since we've had this, last time we've had a meeting, the RSU has changed facilities director, so I'd just like to add, because Wayne was the last facilities director.
Oh, okay.
Anthony McGuire has been on, but we kept a standstill since Anthony's been hired, so he hasn't been a part, so asking if it would be okay to ask Anthony to take the place of Wayne. on this
Wayne wasn't
meeting.
on it.
So that must have been when we had the RSU school board town council meeting, must have been what we did, because Jim Boothby and Scott Frazier and those folks were here that meeting. Is that right?
The only one from the school was Jim Boothby on this committee.
On this committee. So then we should find out if we want the superintendent or the facilities.
Josh Jackson is now on it.
Josh,
Yeah, that's right. We just did
we
this.
just did this, okay. So we've already done that.
Yep, they're all set.
Okay, hey. You said the
Nice talking
president's
to you.
next.
Rich, you do a good job. We appreciate
We
you.
have no committee meetings next meeting, correct? Is that,
You mean next week? That's
yeah,
right.
that's the one,
That's the
I
budget
won't be
meeting.
here for
Yep.
next week.
Neither will I.
I can put a quick.
I was in hopes, but.
Yes.
No, the 18th is a budget meeting,
That's
but
right.
that's all.
Yeah, okay. We'll
Mark,
have enough
when is that cemetery
people, right?
meeting that you
Yes,
said?
we have
The
everybody
25th at
except-
4:30.
25th at 4:30?
Yep.
And then Paul, you also mentioned one at 6:45, which
There's a services committee.
services,
Yep.
and that is on
The 425 as well.
25th as well?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, so just so we're clear, on the 25th, we've got cemetery at 4:30,
Yep.
infrastructure at 6, services at 6:45, and then the baseball field committee will be on the following meeting, May 9th, or the following regular meeting, excuse me, May 9th at 6.
Thank you.
Next item is budget.
Before we, you all have your books now, and, Don at the Enterprises asked for a book, which I'm providing to him, which is not usually, doesn't usually take the whole thing. But he's also asked for the school for one. The budget, as you're going to see over the next month and a half, includes the 3 employees that you approved last year in the fire department. You used $150,000 from ARPA, since that started partway through the year. This year reflects the total of that. The police budget includes a position. I have gone through the social agency requests and made recommendations for some changes to those based on the past practices of the council. I haven't done them all because some are new applicants and I don't know what the council's wishes, I don't have anything to base that on, so those are still there. The amount of those as presented is about 30,000 over your limit, which is $83,000 this year for social agencies. There was a request by the library to be taken out of social agencies and included in the economic development budget. That will be a discussion that you'll have when you do that. But the other thing that we've done this year, and I'm channeling former Mayor Stewart at this point, which is we've taken a hard look at the line items and those, and tried to make sure that we're budgeting to be within 3 to 5% at the end of the year, so that we're not budgeting excess. We're not going to be building fund balance this way, but we are also not going to be raising funds that just get turned back. You'll notice when Public Safety presents that I've made some recommendations for changes in some line items, and those are not based on not allowing the service. Those are based on the usage that we have had over a number of years of that line item. You budget for it all, but if you only ever spend 75%, budgeting 100% isn't responsible because you're putting too much money into the pot. Anyway, and the last thing I want to do talk to you about for a minute that's different than prior years is I have Rachel Wilson here with me, who has entered all the numbers for this year's budget. She's done a huge amount of work in helping to prepare this. This is as I've been very honest with you about, in preparation for what I am hoping in a transition for finance, and So she's here, she's entered numbers, she pays the bills, takes care of our employees with HR, and, so she is here and will be attending as many of these as she can. I think she misses one, but will be here for the rest of it. So welcome, Rachel, and please don't scare her to death, because she's not gonna.
She's with Rich, she'll be fine.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Sue. I guess we will start right off. Obviously, tonight is public service and public safety and debt service.
Right up. I will go over these line by line as I have for the past several years. And you have your books in front of you. On the left side, you will see the numbers that I will bring up to you. For instance, 01 is the payroll line, and I'll go through and try to explain each one of those lines and the changes if there are any. So under the fire department, under the 01, the full-time regular payroll, you will see the difference in numbers there and the 41.24% increase in that line, and the town managers just explained the three positions in the fire department, the opera funds that were used for $150,000 and approximately another $150,000 to make up this year above and beyond that $150,000. So that's what that is. We had discussed that, as she stated, last year when we put in one or two people and then we added another person halfway through. So the 02 line, the next one down, total extra and overtime, you'll see minus 4.2%, a decrease in that line, and the reasoning behind that is the new hires and the years of service actually that they have compared to the years of service to the people that they've replaced, and the years of service of the people coming in drop that down due to vacation times and things of that nature. Moving down through the 03 line, total call payroll is 4.05% proposed increase, and this is actually a proposed change, as you can see on the town manager's chart on the board there. Is down by 56%, or 56,000, or 75% is the estimated use as of February's readouts. So there was a decrease from the proposal that the town manager and I discussed. The training payroll line says 17.17%. That's due to the 3% increases in payroll for those people, the call people. The officers' salaries, you'll see 38.30%. That's an increase because we increased one captain due to the new crew, and we're actually doing attrition for captains of part-time people that are getting done and retiring, and adding a few lieutenants, not full-time, part-time instead of full-time. So we'll have an extra captain, full-time captain, because now we have 4 for the 4 crews that we have. Clothing allowance is the 22 line. The increase in that of 20.8% in that line is due to the added people that we discussed in the 01 line. Dues and travel, very minimal increase there, 0.12%. That was a dues increase in one of those lines, very small one. The 24 line, which is training and hiring expenses, there's no proposed increase in that line. The 31 line, office supplies, there's no proposed increase there. The 32 line, software, there was a 3% increase in our EMS software that we use for scanning all of our medicines and stuff and products on the ambulances. And that actually works very well for what we do. Postage, the 33 line, there's no proposed increase there. Advertising, no proposed increase there. Fire supplies was an 8.74 proposed increase, and that's due to the cost of some equipment going up, and that's an average of what we think it will be. It which is probably not enough, to be honest with you, but we will survive. The 38, the ambulance supplies, that's the cost of equipment and ambulance supplies going up. The 41 line fire equipment purchase was 16.18% proposed increase. That's just, again, equipment prices have gone up. The 42 line, there is no proposed increase in equipment purchases. Going down to the 51 line, which is equipment maintenance and repairs, there's a small proposed increase there, 9.7% for the cost of parts. Telephones, there's no proposed increase there. Fuel for vehicles, you will see a decrease of 27%. The town manager and I looked at that, and she put in there what the usage really is from the last few years, and we hadn't done that in a few years. That's why you see that major decrease in that line, and that line actually is at 75% to date, so we should be pretty close on that with that decrease, I believe. Time will tell on that. The 90 line, the contracted services, some of those contracts went up, so there's a $300 increase of 25%. There was an increase by the hospital on that line for the contracts. Total miscellaneous, no proposed increase there. ALS backup was a 33% decrease proposed. And collections was a 25% decrease of $250. So you see the proposed increase with the people and everything I've just mentioned is at 25.24% to make up for the people that we've hired.
I would note that that 25% doesn't include the fact that that budget had an additional $150,000 added into it after that. So the actual increase over last year is smaller. You add that, it's 1277578 was the budget for that. Last year, $150,000 was added to this budget. So that's 1277 as compared to the 1412.
Okay, so it's 1277, not 1127.
Which if I could.
Correct.
And that, when we were discussing it, the note for this is at the end of the entire budget as opposed to in this individual budget, but,
Is the decrease in ALS backup, I say decrease, I understand we still gotta go another 4 months here, but is that because we actually have the people we need to adequately staff some of these scenarios, so we're not having to call anyone in for that? Is that what we get help from Orrington and other places?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say yes to that. That's correct, not correct? Yes.
Okay.
Less calling outside agencies to help.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last time plus, yes, that is the number, but it's really a fake number, right? Isn't there a deduction out of that per year?
what was
Not
that?
that it's fake. Don't we have a deduction out of that every year
Fake number.
like I say money's earned, but collected revenue. I couldn't think of it.
When I do my this is what it really costs you thing every year.
Yes.
You know, that you see what departments bring in revenues and the revenues for ambulance are around $600,000
Okay.
that are offset. And the difference between the 1412 and the 12, if you add that 150, is 150. It's a 10% increase in this budget, not a 25.4.
Better.
Perfect.
If you consider the actual budget that was available to them this year from last year.
On line 3, I know your proposal before it got to Sue, Sean, was 24 hours a day at $22.28 for 365 days. That's been reduced by that 56,527.
Yes.
So what does that mean on the worksheet? What does that change? What does that change? I'm assuming it's changing the 365, the per diem. I'm assuming that's a reduction in the per diem. I'm curious as to what that.
What we did is we looked at the number of shifts for the year and the number of shifts we've actually filled.
Yep.
And went by that. So that should be very close, but some of those shifts that you couldn't fill may be filled coming up, so it could be a little bit different, but we went with the actual number of shifts that were vacant as opposed to the ones that were filled.
As opposed to the covering
Yeah,
every day.
the ones that were covered, yes. And some of
And
those
that's
get
been-
covered and some don't. It's just, some people can work, some of them they can't work.
That's been pretty consistent. It's why we did the same, that this year's budget of 151,279, no, I'm sorry, 162,981 did the same thing.
Mhm.
It started as a bigger number. We applied their use percentage over time and reduced it by that much. That's why that's what that was. But what the budget shows you is if it had, that's what it would be. But
Right.
one of the reasons, that goes along with, the application for the SAFER grant is to be able to not use call to get to the four
Right.
people a shift, not use per diem to get to the 4 people a shift.
And then you can staff it based on the actual.
And the other thing that has contributed to some of this is that prior to converting to the 4 shifts of 42, we had hired a number of people that required training. And when they're training, they're not, or they're not at.
Yep.
Right.
And so that, some of this has been complicated by the fact that there was, but the people that we hired were trained. So we're coming out of the, everybody needs it. I mean, depending on who gets hired next, we'll see, but the shift through the middle was to train the people.
The 3 we hired were all prior full-time paramedics. One was like at 6 years and the others were at 20 plus
Right.
years, 30 plus years.
Yep.
That had retired from somewhere else, so.
Yep. Okay.
And the call volume has gone up noticeably.
Yes,
Is-
there's no doubt about that.
So you're still confident it'll still operate?
We will make it work.
Yeah.
I won't say I'm not confident, but we can't predict the calls, and the call volume has gone up. And to be totally honest, we have days where we need to backfill, and I could be driving an ambulance. If someone's dying, then we're gonna do what we've got to do to get it done, so time will tell. I'm confident we'll get it done, but I can't predict the calls, and I'm sure they're not gonna go down. If we start adding housing and projects and things of that nature, they're only gonna go up, for sure.
We've gone up more than 400 calls a year
Yeah.
since 2020.
Right.
There was 1,100 and some calls. Deputy Chief Denning and I met yesterday and to go over the day before, one day this week, and they've all run into each other.
We've met every day this
They
week, so-
have, and I think that for last year, there were 1,527, I think was the number.
Yeah, for 2023, I'm using this
Yep.
chart.
Yeah.
1,647 calls. The year
1,647.
before that, 1,490. 1,268.
So the chief had.
1,112.
Sorry, chief.
This is quite interesting. This goes back to 1972.
Right. it's written in my notes twice, because I left my first notes in the car, that I would like to see that.
Require a copy of it.
Yes,
Yes.
please.
We can get you a
It
copy.
is
Yep.
very interesting.
Because it's a talking point too, right?
It
Like
is,
when
for
people
sure.
talk about why there are increases, and I'm anticipating I may get asked that question myself more than maybe perhaps last year. I like to have that data. My head likes trends anyways, but we're gonna leave that aside. I'd like to have that data just to be able to
Right,
say,
we can give-
this is
we can
what
get it to
the
you.
departments are facing, EMS, fire, and
And
police,
it's
in
not
terms of
just
their
in
calls every
Bucksport.
year, year over year.
This is happening everywhere.
Sure.
Everyone's calls are off the charts.
Mhm.
It's just the way it is.
But that data is a great, I would like that.
Yeah,
It
it's a
sounds
great
like it's-
chart.
Okay, yep, that'd be great, thank you.
Uh-oh.
That's large. I can see that. Without my glasses.
That's what I was going for. Let's make it easy for the chief to see. What I was trying to do was get to the side to bring the,
You wanna go get a copy of that?
We'll do it now so that-
Oh, great,
Yeah.
thank you.
We can do it. Thank you. Are we moving on to police or public safety administration?
Public Safety Administration.
Okay. There is, that one is fairly easy because there are no proposed changes besides the proposed salary increases for the director and the chaplain, and that is it.
Did you find it?
No.
Look at the first page and see what the number is.
It's just after the police one.
2C.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, I'm still on two B, okay, thank you. We skipped over the police.
Right.
Alright.
Oh, I didn't arrange my slideshow
That's great.
appropriately.
I could do a better job paying attention. You're fine. You're good.
I will make you go
Works.
through, any questions on this?
Who's, I didn't know there was a chaplain. I like it. One of the first hires 3 years ago was Master Peter Remick.
Oh, perfect.
I don't want to offend any of my 40-plus employees, but he's the best hire I've ever hired. Not because he's him, for the position.
Yeah.
He does very, very well with all of our people.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, very good job.
That's awesome.
Ready to move to the next one?
Police.
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 Starting at the top and the 01 line, the payroll line, the numbers are the same for each budget, so, as the town manager mentioned, there's a proposed, new position there, and the overall proposed increase is 12.74%. And most all of that is due to the 3% union increase and the proposed position.
Can you elaborate on that at all? Shed
On the
some-
position itself,
Yes.
I can tell you some of the things that we've done, to try to prepare for this is that we've reallocated funds for cruisers. This wasn't the intent with that specifically for this position, but it was thought of. And as DC Winchester has explained, that that's an $86,505 savings over the next 3 years. You get 2 cruisers instead of 1. The 1-year savings is $54,500. We do get a reimbursement. I'm talking about the position and potential savings in revenue that we actually get. We're not allowed to get a lot of revenue, but some of the revenue we do get from the RSU every year through Officer Marcel's position. This year I'll be billing $57,000 for that position. That comes in June. We have looked at, and I'm not sure the town manager is up for it yet, of reducing the line in here for the police buyback program. that we put in there every year for $5,000. I think we will have reached our limit due to someone leaving here pretty quick, and I will be receiving a check for that person for $47,000 coming up. Very unfortunate, but it's, at this point in life, it's the cost of doing business, unfortunately. We have changed the detective's salary line a little bit, as you'll see when we get down to it, by about $1,000. The issue is that we changed it from the sergeant is actually not doing that work anymore. It's based on his rate of pay as opposed to one of the patrolmen that's doing it. He's doing a very good job at it, actually, and the overall potential savings is $117,000. So that's what we've looked at as far as potentially adding that position and savings in order to try to do that. And as far as the position itself, I'll let DC Winchester talk a little bit if you want him to tonight, but we can wait about the proposal and what it looks at, what it does. The one thing I can tell you up front is we haven't lost a lot of people, fortunately, in the police department over a few years. The ones that we have lost have been due to a certain shift, and the shifts that we have right now are 10-hour shifts and they're fixed shifts. The midnight shift runs from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. and there are 2 shifts there. One of them is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and that's what you work the rest of your career. You never have a weekend off. If it falls on the holidays, you work all the holidays, things of that nature. So the proposal with that extra position is looking at a different proposed shift, potentially, and this would have to go through the union and all that, of 12-hour shifts that rotate, and every person that works in the patrol division would have 2 weekends a month off, which is very, very fortunate in the police world, for sure. And that's just the beginning of it. He can elaborate on, he's got pages of stuff as to the potential of what that position could do.
So essentially a southern swing shift schedule.
What was the name of that shift, David?
Called a Pittman.
Pittman. It's not a southern swing. I did the southern swing on an 8-hour shift, and the southern swing, you rotate every week. You go days 3 to 11, 11 to 7, swing shift. This one, you have the same shift. If you're working a 6 to 6 day shift, that's what you work, but it will rotate a day, so you get 2 weekends a month off,
Right.
rotating the day full.
No more than 3 days on in a row.
You got it. It's 2 on, 2 off, 2 on, 2 off, 2 on, 3 off, or something like that. Or 3 on, 2 off. Or
I worked that at the jail before I
Yeah.
went to Brewer. It's
right. You work no
It's
more than
life-changing.
3 days in a row, but it's a 12-hour shift.
perfect.
And there are a
Okay.
few others that they're looking at. Again, this would be a union contract thing and negotiations with the town, potentially, if this went through, to just, because right now, the union contract says that we will provide 4 10-hour shifts, so if that changes, obviously, you have to open the contract and talk about it.
Big question, maybe loaded. If that extra person
Yeah.
were to happen, long term, I don't even know how to pitch it for a time frame, 5 years, 10 years. Is the potential there for that extra position with a change in schedule? Does that make it a possibility for us to have better employee retention so we're not spending so much money training, equipping, buying out, buyback, all these scenarios with academy purchases and all that?
Up front, I would say yes, because the proposal to change that midnight shift, that I would say, get back for a little bit, 90%, David, or better, of the people who've got done have worked that shift. It's a rough shift. I mean, if you got a family and kids and stuff,
And if it never
it's a rough shift and it never
get a
moves.
weekend off.
So it's Thursday through Sunday, 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., and that's your shift for life. I mean, so I would say up front, yes, has that potential for sure.
Oh, in my opinion, being in the business, I think you're 100% correct, Chief, Director. I think a change in schedule and making it so people rotate and they have a better family life, family work balance, I think is the word I'm looking for.
Right.
and you have to do it with people. Or it's the only way you guys can do a different schedules with people in our line of work and your line of work. You need to have that workplace family balance. And it's hard to do when you're stuck on midnights the rest of your life.
I just look at that number as large, and it's hard to look at as large right now, but you look at what's actually going on and spread it out over what's happening. That I believe that very well could be a good move, save everything.
It'll save itself in the long run, probably in less time than you had mentioned.
Probably.
Right.
And there's a lot of things that go into that. The Deputy Chief Winchester and I have looked at this in depth in the last few weeks, and you don't think about it as much, but just to hire someone, the money it costs to hire people, the buyouts, just equipment alone is $10,000. And you can't give someone the same equipment or the same bulletproof vest. You gotta buy extra guns, portables. It's a lot of money every time you lose somebody. It frustrates me, to be honest with you, but I won't get into that. We put a lot of time, effort, money into hiring people. And all the exit interviews, just to get this on the table, that I have done have had nothing to do with the PD and the way it's operated. Nothing. It's been shift and life and different positions and different days off and thing that just goes on and on and on. So, and I think they've been upfront with me because I told them to be honest with me. If you did something wrong, I want to know.
We've talked about this for years, about the ability for these sheriffs to move in some way. And there's not enough people in them unless you add another person.
And I've been adamant, not to interrupt, but I've been adamant on these midnight shifts, and he will vouch that I've been on to them and on to them that we need to rotate this midnight shift, because we've lost 3, 4, 5 people on this. And the reason that we haven't, and I haven't really pushed it, is because the only way to do that with the number of people we have right now is they'll have one stretch of 8 days of midnights in order to rotate the one day. It's the only way to do it with the number of people we have. And I said, it was pretty close to doing it, but that's not gonna, someone's gonna get down if you do that. You're not gonna do that long.
I wouldn't do that.
4 is enough, and 8 is way too many. I mean,
It's brutal. We still work 10s, but they rotate, and on their rotate week, our guys, we have 3 shifts. Three people will rotate together. Well, one of them's working like a 7-day stretch. Now, on the backside of that, when you rotate the other way, you got like a 5-6 day stretch off. So I mean, you get it, but it's brutal.
7 days, it's rough.
That's a rough. This new schedule would be perfect. And my opinion, there aren't enough anyway.
I agree.
Any other questions before I move?
All you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So that is the 01 line, the 02 line, 6.59%. A lot of this has to do with the proposed new officer and adding lines of vacation and things of that nature. Total pay, training payroll, you'll see a decrease. That is something that the town manager looked at with us, and I won't go on tonight. It's a rough one because we budget for enough training for everyone we've got to have the training, like a week of training every year for everybody. That doesn't always happen because sometimes you can't send them because you don't have enough people to fill the shifts to begin with, things of that nature, or people have got signed up for things and people go out sick, unfortunately. They look at Steve because he did that before with a big class, and I couldn't send him when he worked for me because someone come down sick for 2 months. And so that's a rough line, but I think it's manageable. And so we did go with decreasing that line a little bit to see if that works. The next line, the investigation payroll line, is proposed to cut that 16.41%. And that's a change in the position that I talked about with the hourly rates from the sergeant to the patrolman that is now doing that. Animal Animal control salary, that's the proposed 3% increase in wages. Chief's expense, there's no proposed increase there. Clothing allowance, line 22, that's obviously the added proposed position. Dues and travel, no proposed increase there. Total training expense, no proposed increase there. The postage cost, we've cut that way back, gone with an average cut at 24% because we're not using all of that and haven't in years. Having said that, I did see on the news where they're trying to boost it up another 23 cents, so it'll be 75 cents for a stamp or 78, and we'll see what happens with that, but I'm sure we'll survive that. Animal control supplies, no proposed increase there. The equipment purchase, we redid our taser plan there. That's why you see the proposed 57% increase. And we have new tasers.
We talked about that last meeting, if I remember correctly, or the
Meeting before.
Couple
A couple meetings ago, I think that came out.
Just wanna
yeah.
make sure I was thinking the same thing. Yep.
Total parts and repair, line 51. We have actually added the animal control vehicle in with that, which we never had, but we were doing repairs to that, but that wasn't really budgeted, so that's a realistic number at this point, hopefully. A small increase in the telephone costs due to the phones. Heating fuel costs, that's for the animal shelter, there's no proposed increase there. Fuel for vehicles, that was brought to a realistic number by the percentage used, and that should be hopefully true usage. At that point, there was a proposed almost 14% cut. In miscellaneous, there was no proposed increase there, so the final was, with the additional officer was proposed, I think it comes to 10.25%. Yes.
You, line 3.
Yep.
Do you not have any more
Let me see what that is.
reserves? Or part-time, I guess, whichever,
Yes,
however you wanna call it.
we have cut back probably 50% on that. We used to have 8 or 10, now we've got 4 or so. So, and they don't, we used to have a 4 to 8 shift where they worked every Monday, 4 to 8. Luckily, we got rid of that because that was very hard to fill from time to time. So we're down to like 4 part-time people.
Okay.
Your reserve,
Yeah,
Rachel, we're paying reserves out of the extra.
Yes, it comes out of, number 2.
Item 2 is where the reserve.
Perfect, thank you very much.
The, line,
I was like, whoa, we're coming.
line 51, the equipment maintenance and repair line.
Yeah.
That's all, like if a car, that's all tires, oil changes, blows an alternator.
Right.
That's out of that line, right?
Correct.
So with that maintaining and staying the same, I know we gotta wait it out, but there's potential for a lot of savings on that line with the leasing program, correct?
That's correct. If you have new cars, that's correct. Then, that is correct, yes.
So we're leaving that the same for now to see where
We haven't,
where we
since
land.
we haven't done this before,
Yeah.
I am
Optimistic, yeah, okay, and then we'll, so next year,
cautiously optimistic.
next year we'll be able to look at that line and
We'll
hopefully
have
see.
a year of experience.
Okay,
I would think it might take a couple years to get a couple years of the older vehicles
probably,
out.
Cycle,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay, alright.
Cause they're gonna keep costing more money, actually.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Yeah, that's a good point, a few little.
once you get rid of those, it should
Start to settle.
settle right out.
Okay.
Dispatch, next, what's on the list? Dispatch?
Yes.
Again, the same numbers, for dispatch on the left side. The 01 account is a proposed 0.37% decrease. That's due to a new employee with a lower rate of pay. Again, that goes with the O2 line, obviously, too, that is a little bit lower due to the decrease due to new employee. Not as much vacation time and things of that nature that are paid out. Training payroll, you're gonna see proposed decrease of almost 32%. That's another, obviously, training is another hard one, but in the dispatch center, it's a little bit different. You have a certified terminal operator school for $512. That only happens when you hire a new person. So every year, if we don't hire a new person, it's $512 that goes back that we're not going to spend. So these are kind of put in there in case we have to do it. So, in looking at that, it's a case-by-case basis when people get done. So it's pretty unpredictable, but I'm sure that the $1,400 we can absorb there for sure. Clothing allowance is no proposed increase there. Dues of travel, no proposed increase. Training expenses, no proposed increase. Office supplies, which is 31, there's a proposed decrease there. We looked at that as what the usage was every year, due to actual expenditures. Go ahead.
When we met on this budget, you'll notice, I met with public safety, and we took a look at every item that was purchased under every, to make sure they were allocated in the right place and not duplicated in any other place. And so some of these things were things that were either somewhere else or were not current. So it looks like I mangled this one, but that really wasn't. It was a cooperative effort from the departments and myself, because I had the benefit of being able to see where everything was put, and that's what it just. Go ahead, Chief. Sorry.
No, that's good. So the other was office supplies, postage. They don't have a postage account there anymore. And we take everything, it's a 100% decrease. We take everything out of the police department. And dispatch does not really have any postage to speak of. It's all police department. Mostly it's violations bureau tickets that we mail out weekly. So they just happen to do all the work, as you see in the monthly reports that goes with that. So we did not need that. Equipment maintenance and repairs, no proposed increase there. Telephone costs, you'll see a proposed decrease of almost 22%. This is again due to actual expenses with the telephones that the town manager just mentioned that we looked at. So total miscellaneous is no proposed increase there, and the overall budget is proposed at a decrease of 2.24%.
We really pay $15,340 in phones a year?
I believe so. Yes.
Wow.
Well, let me see.
Thought I had
Let me
You
look.
mean for between police, fire?
right, the building.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Because you've got the cell phone plans, you've got, it's
Internet,
phones and
cable,
internet
yeah.
Okay.
capacity.
Yeah.
The internet cost for, the public safety building, I believe, is, Rachel knows. that.
She does, that's why I don't see any of those, we budget it and stuff, but I don't see any of those bills, but I say yes because I know what's about it.
Yeah. It just, okay. I was like.
And we can get you
phone bill.
those.
So I wasn't sure what the phone bill was, right? Because everyone had a different one. I was thinking dispatch should have a higher phone bill, right? Their type of thing. It would only, they had the ones taking all the phone calls. But, 911, all that stuff.
Right, so with Consolidated, we're paying internet and phone
Okay.
for the departments, and then the cell phones, and
They call
How
it
many
the
cell phones?
telephone ground, but that's $76.
DMV lines, all that are included in this. So, there's a
Everyone
lot
gets
of
cell phones?
phones.
Yes. Not,
No.
well, not me, but
The whole department?
No.
Oh, okay.
This-
What was your question?
Everyone gets cell phone?
No.
Okay. That's
No,
great.
each
I never
car-
realized, I guess I, for me,
Each,
I
yeah,
never
each
realized
cruiser
how-
has one, Paul. When you come in and you go to work, you
get a cell phone.
you have a cell phone in the cruiser that's the town's, but we don't give them to every employee. But you have one available when you work in your car. Ambulance has them, and yeah, it's,
Right, all work vehicles have one in it.
right.
Perfect, awesome. I just never realized that phones cost that much.
Not
I
all,
mean-
not all vehicles. The fire trucks don't have them, do they?
Correct. Just the ambulance.
Just the
Ambulances, yeah.
Oh, the fire
yeah.
trucks though?
No.
Not every fire truck, no, there's,
Okay.
how many units there, 20?
I'm
How many
sorry.
units do you have in the garage? Total units?
10?
Yeah, so there won't be another 10, there's only 2 out there that have it.
Three ambulances.
Three,
Your
yeah,
Three ambulances,
that's
right?
right.
Perfect. All personal cell phones. I learned something tonight. I should have got into the phone business.
Yeah.
yeah, when we looked at the telephone, it used to be a much higher rate before we converted to consolidated. And now it's $76.41 a month, I believe, is the amount for they called it the OTOY. Yeah, that
Yeah.
line.
DMV.
And then
Okay.
the actual consolidated bill is around $200 a month. So
Perfect.
199 something. I just looked at these numbers, so that's why I can remember that. So. Anyways, it didn't need to be that high. So it's-
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Public safety building, is that where we're at?
Yep.
Is the phone bill on here too? No, I'm joking. Sorry. Just-
Wouldn't surprise me any.
There is. phones
There
and
is somewhere.
we have-
Phones and internet, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, there is, yeah.
Okay, so public safety building, the O1 account, there is no proposed increase. That's the custodian. At this point, there's no proposed increase. Contracts, 1.19%. I know that Spillman has gone up a little bit, and the copier contract, that's what's under there, has gone up a little bit. Building supplies, that 9% proposed increase is just due to supplies going up. Uh, 52 building maintenance and repairs. You'll see an actual costs were updated in those lines as to what we were paying. So those were caught up actually, that's that proposed increase of 26%.
A lot of that is elevator related.
Yeah, we moved a lot of stuff around here. We really dug into this for probably, felt like 2 days, but it was an hour, I think, really to get things hopefully where they're supposed to be. Phones and internet, line 61, you'll see a proposed 43%, almost 44%, because that was decrease due to actual costs that we looked at. Fuel was another decrease of 33% due to actual costs of what we're paying. The electricity was a proposed increase of almost 2.44%. And water costs, was a proposed increase. Those were updated real numbers at 58%. And total miscellaneous was proposed cut by 20%. Elevator inspections and things like that were updated to the actual costs of what we are actually paying, as opposed to what we thought we were paying. So the overall was a decrease of 3.71%.
So realistically, out of the 4 budgets you just talked about,
4 or 5, yeah.
4? An increase of 17.14. Roughly.
Or-
Well, the.
Yeah, because you subtract, 5,
Well,
almost
the-
6%.
When you add in utilities, which is under protection as well, it's a 13.2% increase over the protection, not including that $150,000. See what I mean? So it's less than 10% overall for all the budget.
Oh, okay.
Or if you add fire, police, dispatch.
I missed one somewhere, but great job. With the increases in everything this year, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
to be down on some of these.
To be down on some, and with the, just go to Hanford. I mean, and to be able to only, that's great.
It was certainly a team effort. I want to put it honest, it was, it's not just me. We met, she had us meet for
Yeah, I mean, that's
3.5
that's a great job.
hours.
Well,
We met Tuesday on for 3.5 hours on, so.
Yeah. It's,
with the idea that we were looking to be closer to actual as opposed to.
Right. Actual cost is
to
what we
past
think.
practice, pre-me, of having,
extra to go to.
well,
Slash run.
sort of it having be a requirement to turn money back
Right.
every year. And that builds fund balance, but it's not transparent to the public. The public thinks that that's what it really costs to do things, and it doesn't. You're spending less and feeding fund balance with it, and the way to feed fund balance is to utilize overlay. That way people can see the amount of money that you're saying that you're going to put away, as opposed to, we're gonna pad the budget by 5% so that we can do it and make the overlay look smaller.
I feel like those are some really tight numbers in some areas, like those are some really, I really hope that works out on some of those lines.
As I said, they
Those are
could
pretty-
be, and we'll see.
I-
We'll have to keep a good eye on it for sure. Like
Yeah.
you said, like gas is gas, and that's the number, but
Right.
if calls go up 10% this year, and we have to travel further, it's done. So I
Right.
think we'll be
Well,
fine, but
There's, it didn't go to, the average was X and the price was Y, and that's the only number.
Right. No,
They better not go over.
No, I'm agreeing with Paul. Just after everything, after the re-eval last year, just everything, and this being the first round of things we looked at, I see those being really tight numbers to try to level things off the best you could. So.
What was nice to reading down through them, and it'd been a while since I looked, and to see what you asked for,
yeah.
right? Then to see your column in the work between, all right, we agreed on this, or, we could come up, yeah, I know you want this, but let's talk, and, you guys.
There were
go out.
interesting discussions. in
I
3.5
know, I can
hours.
imagine,
It was true teamwork in the end, but I have a
But-
boss, and he's
Everybody
a
had the
boss, so
same
come
goal,
on.
we just have different perspectives on, as I must have said 412 times in that 4 hours, you're worried about 4 budgets. I'm worried about the whole thing. We need to,
Right.
But to make it and to see the work, and then the increase, the realistic increase, when you go out into the public, and those they're much higher than what that increase is. So it's good to see that.
There's a trade-off there, as far as
You got to make it work now.
if that position came to fruition, and with everything running that tight, there's a lot of things that got to fall into place for that to be successful. So
It does.
I hope it works.
have faith.
Okay,
Councilor
good.
Bishop.
Good.
Yeah, it's.
It, based on experience. There's a factor here in the years of experience that were in the room when these budgets were done. I think that we're way over 100. So, anyway.
You good, Ed?
I'm good.
Utilities, streetlights.
Thank you.
Are,
Thank you.
thank you, Jude.
Thank you.
Are, there's a slight increase, and hydrant rental has actually gone down. And it's gone down because last year, if you remember, when we budgeted, I was told that they were going to do a water rate increase in September of last year. And so I budgeted at one rate for one quarter and another rate for the other 3 quarters, and that didn't happen. And it's not happening this year. So I reduced that to accommodate the fact that that wasn't necessary.
I do have one question.
Yeah.
When we talk, this is all power stuff, so the array out on Central Street,
Yep.
what does that go to? Other than the building there?
The array?
The highway, the solar array.
Solar array. Oh.
That isn't in this budget to buy it. We
I
pay
didn't need that.
We pay Revision Energy for the kilowatt hours that are generated from that, instead of paying Central Maine Power.
Okay.
Our Central Maine Power bills show that power usage offsets the cost to CMP. And we chart that. We've got that since we started in 2018. But the cost per kilowatt hour for Revision is slightly lower than Central Maine. But we talked about whether you buy out the array and then you don't have to pay Revision for anything, and that once it reduces the cost, it reduces the cost. But that didn't go anywhere.
Thank you very much. No, that answers it.
Paul, it goes to 9 middle-sized accounts that are spread amongst the town, I think.
Well, I didn't know if we could use them on our lights. That's, that
Not-
was,
use them on
that
other
was my
things.
question.
We use them on other
Not the
Right?
street, not the
Hell,
street
yeah.
lights, but down here, I think on the waterfront.
Town office, Public Works town office, marina, waterfront, pump station 3.
Schools.
No, different entities.
The, down by the end of the walkway, what is it? Sprague, the Sprague, there's 2 more.
Perfect.
But it cascades. It starts off with, it first applies to Public Works, and then it applies to town office, then it applies to marina. It however many kilowatt hours were generated to offset. And in months like from now on, we'll be generating excess, and that banks and is used in the other months, and then we run out and we pay for at least some of it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Debt service, the 92 account, that $15,412 is a commitment on the part of the town to help offset the cost of the swirl concentrator, which is a sewer expense, but it's a general fund expenditure to that was back in 2000, whenever you did it, 12, 13, 11. So that goes to that, and the other is the road bond. All 3 years of that's down 5% over last year. It will continue to reduce for the next few years until that's paid off. One of them is paid off in 5 years, and one of them is paid off in 6. So it will continue to reduce, but that's debt service for that, and that's the only, I hit the wrong button. Now we aren't looking at anything except the free picture, but that was the last budget item for tonight.
Okay.
Great job, thank you.
And then next week is the 18th, and it's the social service agencies. So those of you who are here, we have a brief presentation by each one who's asking for something. We generally make no decisions that night in terms of those. Those are taken under advisement, and then at the meeting in May, when you decide what budget is going out, that's when you decide what the funding level is gonna be for those.
Yeah, do they come in and present their case next week?
Good choice, Paul.
Mayor Bissonnette, we're gonna try to try to cap them at like 5 minutes.
I would cap them at 3 or 4.
Three.
I don't, there's,
What's the pleasure of
there's
3?
how many on the list?
I
There's
thought I saw
20.
like 20-something when we did the 4, because we had that whole list of them.
Yes.
Oh, economic development.
Yeah, at the economic development meeting, I was looking at them like, we gotta talk about all of these tonight, you know, and I was
Well,
lucky we only had to
they're
talk
much
about
smaller.
3.
That's
Through it, and if I
a
have any
smaller
input, I'll
list
send you an
than,
email.
than,
So
Any
you-
questions too, I'll make sure they get
We're,
that.
we're setting the time, what, 3 minutes, 5 minutes? 3 minutes?
Yep.
3 minutes.
If there's 20 groups, that's an hour, so.
Yeah, I'm good with
And it
that.
never goes that,
Yeah, and we can, once the alarm goes off, I think we did this last year, we'll finish your 7, so that's.
So we're also talking capital improvement next week as well?
yeah, that's just the budget for the capital, for what goes into capital improvement. That isn't the overall capital, what the departments are saying to do for next year.
Okay.
It's just the budget, what I'm recommending you put into your reserve.
Well,
When is the one on what people wanna buy, like with their capital improvement?
We're getting to that. That'll be the next one, this is just the,
we'll wait for you to get back.
Oh, I like that one, yeah. It's interesting. It amazes me how much.
the only, the ones that are,
The ambulance.
the revenues aren't in, I don't have to, you don't have that sheet.
We do it for your school department meeting.
They had their meeting.
They were meeting tonight. Yeah.
I thought it was last night.
They had their regular meeting every Tuesday, and I thought I heard it, and this could very well not be correct, right? That they were meeting again tonight, so.
Yeah, that's
Chairman Tatum, anything else? I don't mean to cut anyone off.
Oh, motion.
Motion.
Motion adjourned.
Yep.
Second?
All in favor?